Welcome in to the PFF NFL Podcast. Steve Palazzolo here, along with Sam Monson. We're live again on YouTube. Hello to our YouTube friends. Hopefully you guys are starting to make this little weekly tradition, right? Just tune in every Monday to the podcast and then download it later to listen to on the way to work.
Yeah. Take it on all channels because, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you help us out like that? We help you out with football, knowledge, insight, all that kind of stuff. You need to help us out as well.
It is it's a team effort here. We got a tweet this weekend from a guy, I do forget his name, on Twitter where he had the underthrow. He saw the underthrown deep ball, and it was a pass interference, and I think I tweeted about it because it's just my thing, right? And he was like, man, Sam's gears must be ground. Gears were ground on that.
Yeah, somebody else was, this was like news to them, that Joe Flacco had built a long and glorious career of just underthrowing the deep ball. Because it happened when there was one play in that game where he got sacked from behind, right? And he was winding up to uncork.
Oh, he was ready
to uncork a 10-yard underthrown deep ball in that play. Like it was so late in the play, he was ready. He was, doing the whole step forward into it. It was going to be like 15 yards underthrown. He was looking for defensive pass interference in the play. So I kind of tweeted out something like that, and people were like, is he known for that? It's like, only amongst people that have seen Ravens games ever.
We were watching together. You were like, oh, yeah, he was setting up that underthrown deep ball.
We should look into this at some point, but I was saying that Torrey Smith probably has like a whole second career's worth of stats just on like defensive pass interference on the go ball.
We do need to dig into it. No, it's great. But the point was our listeners are you guys are one with us. It's just this, football watching experience that we share together, watch some of the same things, and it's always great getting tweets when people see stuff that we always like to point out. So we're going to review Week 7. We'll hit on a bunch of the big games. We'll try to touch on everything at least a little bit. Let's start. Where do you want to start? Let's start with your Thursday night prediction. Mm-hmm. You predicted a Case Keenum redemption game. He played pretty well. You win.
Yeah, I'm taking that as a victory. Okay, it was a lot of defense in that game. The Denver defense showed up again. They've kind of been, I don't want to say they've been hit and miss. They've had some really strong outings. They've come as close as anybody to slowing down the two best offenses in the league. And they did a pretty good job here against the Cardinals, multiple pick sixes. Case Keenum played okay, so I'm going to take that as a win.
It was really a win for Von Miller, though,
who
predicted that they were going to dominate, essentially. And he had 10 pressures. He backed it up. 10 pressures,
Kicked
2
their ass
sacks.
was, I believe, the term he was using.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, he was right.
Yeah.
2 sacks, both strip sacks, 3 QB hits, and 5 hurries.
Yeah.
91 points.
Von Miller going up against Andre Smith, the right tackle, always had bloodbath written all over it.
That dip move that he put on him, though, too, wasn't even touched.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
He also, there was a post I tweeted where he came inside, destroyed the guard, like literally just flattened him on, a stunt. Then somehow, so they both went to ground. It was such a clattering that they both went to ground, flying off to the left of the field. And Josh Rosen steps up into that space and tries to scramble away. Somehow, like mid-fall, Von Miller is able to regain himself and spring back in the direction of Josh Rosen, chase him down and force a fumble.
Yes.
Like it's unbelievable, like, ability to move, body control that people just don't have.
Vaughn was at a special level last Thursday night in what was a pretty bad game, 45-10 Denver win over the Arizona Cardinals. Let's get into some of the bigger action from Sunday. You want to start New England Bears?
Okay.
Patriots Bears? 38-31 victory, Patriots over the Bears. Really a weird game. Mitch Trubisky continues to really play poorly from a pure passing standpoint, but have good stats.
Yeah.
The biggest disconnect between PFF grade, we'll see what happens when the finalized grades are out there, but he came into the week at 33rd, and then he was that's going to drop.
Well, this one at least his passer rating is low, whereas before we were trying to explain why he was grading badly despite an excellent passer rating. This time, at least, his passer rating kind of sucked as well because he threw some picks.
I'm more talking about for the season. He's still almost at 100 for a passer rating for the season.
But even this game, it's like 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. But thankfully, there was a couple of picks, so you can at least, everybody is not trying to argue that he's playing really well right now.
And those picks easily could have been 4 or 5. He almost had 4 red zone picks in isolation, just in the red zone.
Still can't pass left.
Still can't pass left.
2 completions to the left.
Had some sweet runs. He had a great touchdown run, had a 39-yard run where the Patriots were just like, oh, you're the quarterback. We can't touch you. But they forgot once he crosses the line of scrimmage, you can.
Yeah, the touchdown run,
Was nice.
I don't think, walk maybe better encapsulated what that actually was by the end of it.
By the end of it, yeah. Well, so he did a pretty good job running. I've seen other numbers that have him having a pretty good season. We are not seeing that. We're seeing a lot of teammates helping him out, scheme helping him out, and getting a ton of interception luck, even though he did end up throwing the 2 yesterday. And New England scores 38. They continue to score a ton of points, but this wasn't all offense. This was blocked punt, return for a touchdown, and a kick return for a touchdown by Cordero.
Yeah, so that kick return touchdown, by the way, was beautiful. Like, he got whatever it was, 30, 40 yards upfield, then hit this move on the guy coming in to get him, which not only took that guy out, but that guy was so completely out of it that he took the chasing defender out of it as well, and then he was gone. Like, Cordero Patterson is now, I think, 3 touchdowns away from the all-time kick return touchdown record in an era where the NFL is trying to get rid of the kickoff return.
Yeah, it's
like
impressive.
he may one of two things. Either he may not get there because they're actually going to eliminate the kickoff at some point, or he's going to actually tie or break that record at a time where the league is trying to get rid of the kickoff. Either way, it's pretty ridiculous. He, I think, now has either passed or become or second to Gale Sayers in terms of average return distance in a league where, obviously, since it's Gale Sayers, nobody has touched that. Like, he is legitimately the best kick return guy in the league by a distance. It's just a shame that the league is actually trying to purge that play from the lexicon.
It is. Yeah, it is impressive that he's been that good.
This Bears defense, again, is just not the same unit with Khalil Mack banged up. He had only 2 hurries all game, only 16 pass rushes, but just that defense is completely different when he is wrecking people at on the right-hand side of that defensive line.
Yeah, he is, and they did not attack Brady a lot. They only blitzed him 5 times out of 38 dropbacks. So it did seem like Brady had a lot of time, and the numbers do back that up. Only 10 pressured dropbacks out of those 38. So there was not a lot of pressure on Brady in this one. And then from on the other side of the ball, again, a weird game. New England turned the ball over a couple times. Bears had a few short fields. They scored a ton of points, but the Patriots defense not looking great either. So it's 2 teams who are near the top of the conference, their respective conferences coming in, and there's some good, some bad that came out of this 38-31 win for New England that almost became a dramatic finish with that Hail Mary stuffed at the 1-yard line.
Yeah, a Hail Mary that was completed and didn't end up scoring. Because
there's another stat inflator for Mitchell.
Yeah, what was that, like 60 yards or whatever, tacked on the end for a completion that ended up being inconsequential.
60 free yards. Trubisky really did struggle under pressure. 3 for 15 under pressure,
and that's
5 for 20. Here's the thing. His blitz numbers he's been horrendous against the blitz. Yesterday, 5 for 20 with a 56 passer rating against the blitz.
I mean, he's been terrible against the blitz and under pressure, period, so far this season, and that's not changing. Like, his passer rating from a clean pocket this season is 109, which is very, very good. He's completing 72% of his passes when kept clean. Yards per attempt, 8.1. Those numbers all fall off a cliff when he's pressured. So he's yet to throw a touchdown under pressure. Passer rating of 46.5, completing 39% of his passes under pressure, and an average at 5.3. So, I mean, really, that's the story of him at the moment. Is if you keep him clean, he's fine. If there's any pressure or there's a blitz, he's toast.
And a lot of that fine, I still think, is scheme driven.
Sure, yeah.
I'm just not liking the way Mitchell's playing, other than that Bucs game. So, just something to keep an eye on. He's a guy that looks like a regression candidate from a statistical standpoint, or you just give so much credit to the scheme and what they're able to do because they have a quarterback who's playing amongst the worst in the NFL per our grades, but the numbers just have not shown that.
You said it earlier that he kind of looks like rookie season Jared Goff, only instead of the worst quarterback situation in the league, he has maybe the best.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best. I mean, you still Mahomes and some of the.
But he's at that end of the scale as opposed to the other end. So Goff jumped forward when he went from the bad end of the scale to the good end of the scale in terms of supporting cast. Trubisky's already at the good end of the scale and is playing badly.
And he's playing poorly. Good. And you see the difference. Goff's numbers were terrible that matched his play. Trubisky's aren't. It's just an interesting way of looking at things, I think, when we're doing this throw-by-throw, play-by-play grade. And credit him as a runner, though he made some big plays yesterday and did help keep the Bears in the game. We mentioned the Chiefs a couple minutes ago in that situation. It really was incredible just watching that. They dissect the Cincinnati Bengals, crushed them 45-10, and you could just see it is so. How do you stop them? How do you stop the Chiefs and all of those playmakers and Patrick Mahomes at the helm?
You can't. It really is what it comes down to. This is one of the all-time great offenses. People are rattling off the offenses of the past sort of 20 years and where this ranks. And it's up there with that, 2013 Denver Broncos, the Peyton Manning team, the Brady 2007 Patriots, the 98 Vikings, the 99 Rams. It's up there with all of those great offenses. Where it differs, at least from all of them except Denver maybe, is that teams can't play defense anymore. Like, the league is neutered defenses. So certainly from those late 90s teams, and probably even from the 07 Patriots team, you can't defend like you could. You can't get aggressive with receivers as much. You can't do any of the things you used to be able to do. You can't hit these guys the same way. So you literally can't defend a great offense the way you used to be able to. So they're inherently going to be more potent and more dangerous. Like, that game last night went half the way we expected it to, which is the Chiefs are going to score a bunch of points. If the Bengals can't get any serious pressure on them, which they couldn't, can they match them in a shootout? And the answer was hell no, they couldn't. Somehow the Bengals couldn't score on the Chiefs' worst defense. But I don't think you can stop this offense. I think you're going to have to either keep pace with them or get lucky when it comes to turnovers.
Yeah, and the scary thing about them, I think, the boss, Chris Collinsworth, mentioned it last night. He had only had only 3 touchdown passes at home coming into the game. They haven't played a ton of home games. They haven't played the Raiders yet. They still have to play the Raiders twice.
Yep.
I mean, so they've been putting up crazy numbers in probably the more difficult part of their schedule. Now, they still have the Rams to play. That's going to be potentially epic over in Mexico City. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be probably the game of the year. But, unless Mahomes, we saw him have some Favre-type moments against New England. I honestly think it's just going to come down to him. It's almost like when you're defending like a Drew Brees or Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if there's so much that you could do to slow them down other than just hope they have a bad game, and they have bad games here.
And that's exactly what it is. You basically have to get lucky and come into their bad game at the right time, and that's what all these great offenses in the past, that's been the thing that slowed them down. Almost all these teams, there's one game somewhere in the season where there's a hiccup and they lose a game. Like, the 15-1 Minnesota Vikings. They had one game where they randomly just had a hiccup and didn't put up the points, and they lost the game.
Is that your favorite team of all time?
I honestly think that's the best comp for this offense. If you start going player by player, Tyreek Hill is your Randy Moss, right? Not because he compares directly to Randy Moss, but because if you forget about it, only takes one play. You can forget. You can keep him bottled up for the entire game. Then there's one play and you miss your jam, and he's 10 yards behind you, and it's an 80-yard touchdown. We saw that with Tyreek Hill last night. He dropped the pass, but you forgot about him for a second, and bam, that would have been your touchdown. That's where Tyreek Hill is. It's the same type of offense again, because when you think you've got everybody under control, the guy you forgot about has a huge game.
Yeah.
So we worry about Tyreek Hill. We worry about Travis Kelce. Everything else, and then suddenly, oh crap, Kareem Hunt is really good, and now he's breaking tackles and we can't stop him.
Yep.
Like, this offense, I think, is very, very like that 98 Vikings offense. But the difference, as I was saying before, is now teams can't actually defend it. So it's like you transport that offense back to now, it's so much harder to defend.
The funny thing about Tyreek Hill is if he was just a receiver that lined up out wide, he's dangerous, but he's also the guy that has to do the gimmick stuff for them as well. So he really is dangerous outside receiver, but also you put him inside in the slot, and he's creating mismatches. You put him in the backfield. You give him swing passes. I mean, there's so many different ways to use him that it is that much scarier. Mahomes has the highest percentage of open throws in the league, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
We'll get to check what the updated numbers are once we have them after today. But coming in, wasn't even close. And eyeballing last night's game, still probably not close. So credit to Mahomes, but also credit the scheme. I mean, this is the perfect marriage of scheme, personnel, and a very good young quarterback in Patrick Mahomes.
The only area I can even see that offense being vulnerable is the interior of that offensive line is not fantastic, and when they run into a team like the Rams that have an Aaron Donald who's capable of wrecking an offensive line on his own, maybe that's enough to slow them down, but that's it.
I mean, I still think you still want to keep Mahomes in the pocket. If you play with really good pad level and compress the pocket and you make him make good decision after good decision after good decision, perhaps he'll make a few bad ones. He still heaved one up, or a couple bad ones into traffic yesterday. So It's not impossible. But again, 2 weeks ago, in their worst game on the road against New England, they scored 40.
Exactly. That's the scary thing about them, is that they're not playing perfectly, right? They're not playing at this level where you think that's completely unsustainable. They're making no mistakes. They can't continue this level. Like, they're putting up this level of points and yardage while still screwing up a lot of plays. Tyreek Hill had 2 drops. One of them was a touchdown yesterday. Spencer Ware fell over twice when he would have scored touchdowns. Like, they're making a bunch of mistakes and still putting up 45.
Yeah, it's crazy. Pretty impressive. We'll have a video. We'll have a YouTube video. Can you stop the Kansas City Chiefs later today? You're in that one, so be ready.
Okay.
On the YouTube channel. All right, let's fly around the rest of the league. Anything else in particular that stood out to you that you wanted to touch on? The worst decision of the weekend?
The worst decision of the weekend?
It was a fake throw. A throw.
What was that?
The Kirk Cousins.
Oh, yeah. For some reason, Cousins decided to throw the ball away on a quick kind of wide receiver swing pass, but he threw it away backwards, which obviously is a fumble and therefore a live ball. And it was such an inexplicably bad decision that it took Stephon Diggs, the target, like a second to look at the ball bouncing around the ground and then realize, oh, crap, that's live. I need to actually jump on that.
That was rough.
That was, bizarre.
Between that decision, and I mentioned it in the office earlier today, Kirk Cousins taking a knee when he meant to spike it 2 years ago.
He does have those weird brain farts in him.
It's like two of the worst decisions I've ever seen on a football field.
Yeah, that was weird.
Overall, Cousins has been excellent this season. Wasn't great yesterday, including that bad decision. And then on the other side, Sam Darnold. He did come back down to earth. That was one of the matchups I really wanted to watch going forward, him against a Mike Zimmer defense, and it was Mike Zimmer. It looked like Mike Zimmer versus a rookie.
Yeah, that was a strange game because for the majority of the game, it felt like the Vikings should have been like 20 points ahead, and they weren't.
But it was close.
Yeah, and it never kind of got more than 10, and then at the end, it got a bit out of control and got back to the 20-point game. It should have been all the way along. So it was a weird game. Adam Thielen remains awesome. Now 7 consecutive 100-yard games, which is the record to start a season, but one shy, I think, of the record all time, like at any point in the season. So he's one 100-yard game away from tying the all-time record.
Yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. The Wembley game, Titans and Chargers.
Yeah.
Heartbreaker for the Titans.
Yeah.
And the Chargers just continue to roll.
Good for Mike Vrabel, though. He went for 2.
Yeah.
Because not going for 2 would have screwed up our Wembley hit on Sky Sports, right? So Mike understood that in order to get PFF on TV,
FaceTime.
He needed to go for 2 to either win or lose the game, just not send it to overtime, and that's what he did. And again, like, people are hammering this decision. It's clearly the right call.
Here's the thing.
You have one shot, one play. It's probably a 50-50 proposition at worst to convert that play. And that is a better odds than it is to extend the game that you're a massive underdog in.
Yes.
If you're rolling at that point in time. It's just a better call.
That's the thing that people don't understand is when you tie the game, you still have, in theory, of a 50-50 shot if all things are equal. Right? Yeah. You're still at the mercy of a coin toss and playing a full overtime period.
And that's if all things are equal, which they're not.
So if you're calling the 2 point, if we're saying all things are equal, just for now, the 2-point conversion, let's say, is 50-50, and that's about, it's actually higher.
Yeah.
Let's say it's 50-50, and then you kick the extra point, you go to overtime, and that's 50-50. You're still dealing with this 50-50 odds of winning the game. But when you factor in the other things, the 2-point conversion actually is more likely to happen. There is a chance that you could miss the extra point, as we saw. Justin Tucker, the best kicker in the NFL, missed an extra point. And then the whole overtime
Then you're restarting a quarter against a team that is massively favored against you, even if you've been winning over the past, quarter or so.
Yeah. So having your team have one shot to win a game 2 yards away is actually a favorable play.
So, again, I think going for it was the right decision. Just go for it better. Take issue with the play call. Don't take issue with the decision. That's what these come down to so many times, is that going for it was the right call. Going for it in the manner you went for it was the bad decision.
And people always call it risky, like, oh, this is risky going for this 4th down, or this is risky going. But I like our guys keep hammering. It's like, actually, it's riskier to punt. I mean, if you're really playing the odds, it's riskier to punt, or it's riskier to kick the extra point and go to overtime, if you're truly looking at it from a probability standpoint. Phillip Rivers continues to play extremely well. I think he's firmly in. I know you don't love the MVP discussion, but the people that are having the MVP discussion are going to include Phillip Rivers. That's all I'm saying.
Well, they can have.
We're not going to have that discussion.
No,
we're not. But there are people out there.
Yeah.
Who are going to have it.
Well, as long as they have it away from me, we're all good.
Sadly, now, if we check Derwin James, no sacks.
No.
Falling way behind Bradley Chubb.
Yeah.
In our update. So Bradley Chubb, is he at 7, I think?
Yeah, he had 2 more, right? Despite grading pretty badly.
He didn't grade well, but he still had 2 sacks. That was Bradley Chubb. Derwin James, the Chargers don't understand. They
Well,
need
then
to
he
rush
gave
him
him
more.
2 pass rushes.
That's what I mean. They don't understand what's happening here, what he needs to be doing.
Yeah.
He's the best pass rusher on their team. Until Bosa gets back. He's right up there with Melvin Ingram.
Sure.
Desmond King with another nice game.
Yeah, he's
Chargers.
at least getting back in shape. The rest of that secondary is still playing dramatically under where they should be, but he did.
Yep. Cool. So Chargers keep rolling, and they're in pretty good shape. Are we waiting for the Chargers' wheels to fall off just because they're the Chargers, or can we just have some good objective analysis here and say they're a really, really good football team?
I think they're back on track. It's just that they now are staring at a division where the Chiefs are runaway locomotives, and obviously the Patriots will be back by the end of the season. So this whole feel-good Chargers Super Bowl thing that Mike had going, like even if you say, okay, they're back, they've got their house back in order, like the task in front of them appears to be significantly larger than it was when we were talking about that.
And the Chargers' only 2 losses to the Chiefs and to the Rams.
Yeah.
So the 2 best teams, potentially 2 of the best teams in the NFL, at least record-wise. And they still have to go to Kansas City, where they have not had much success. But could be different this time. Could be different. Let's fly through some of the other stuff. We've got the Colts beating the Bills 37-5.
Oh, God.
37-5.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek Anderson only had 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you had a full game of Peterman, you're looking at 5 or 6.
Yeah, you know the way we've always talked about how passing from a clean pocket is the easier thing to do, and quarterbacks typically have a passer rating over 100, that kind of thing.
Not always.
Derek Anderson's passer rating from a clean pocket against the Colts was 39.8, which is marginally higher than if he'd just thrown the ball at the floor every single play.
Spike it.
Which admittedly is significantly harder than actually, Nathan Peterman going out there and just throwing the ball to defenders. So, I mean, yeah, that went pretty terribly.
Yeah.
But probably still better than Peterman would have managed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually impressive how bad the quarterback situation in Buffalo is right now. Now, obviously, Josh Allen is a high-variance, volatile rookie who's now wrecked his elbow. So, let's put a pin in the Josh Allen thing. But the idea that the next 2 options are Nathan Peterman and then signing Derek Anderson off the street, whose one claim to fame is a half-decent season back in 2007. Like, that's terrible.
In a league where we keep saying it's pretty, a lot of teams happy with their quarterback situation for the most part. There's actually some good backups out there to be had. Go trade for Sam Bradford.
Well,
the Sam Bradford backup, no, that wouldn't work out well with that supporting cast. Anyway, that was an ugly one. Let's get to the Texans at the Jaguars. A couple weeks ago, you said that Blake Bortles was bad. I defended him and said he was closer to average.
Mm-hmm.
Since you called Blake Bortles bad, he's been bad.
Yeah, really bad. Bad to the point where he got benched.
He did. For your boy.
Cody Kessler, who also played pretty bad, but let's not dwell on that.
Oh, man. What do you do in Jacksonville right now?
I mean, you're pretty close to, they probably can't go on with Blake Bortles as a quarterback. Like, he's been bad to the point where this doesn't function, and it should function because there's a bunch of other stuff that's very good on that team. The defense has been less good than it was a year ago, but it still should be the strength of that team. They should be in a position where they can run the ball okay. Look, like we said before, the only way that offense functions is if they dumb the quarterback position down enough to the point where any Muppet can do it.
So this was the reason why our projections were not favorable to them. Because when you look at their season last year, yes, they ran the ball a lot, therefore had a lot of rushing yards. Their defense was excellent. Defense is hard. It's hard to be that good year in, year out defensively. Offense is just more consistent in general. And you just inherently expect you're going to have to rely on the quarterback more. Bortles does have this knack. It's kind of like he's not in Matt's. I'm going to make a comparison here. I'm going to bring back the comparison. He's not as good as Matthew Stafford. Can I get that out of the way?
You can.
But the same way Matthew Stafford has 3 games a year that make him look like a top 3 quarterback.
Yeah.
Blake Bortles has 3 or 4 games a year that make him look like a viable to good quarterback. Not top 3, but viable to good. And it's just enough to say, okay, we could do this. That was week 2 against New England. He was near perfect.
Yeah.
It was week 4 against the Jets. He looked excellent. Last year he had a 4-game stretch where we're like, man, is he turning it around, or is this just the 3-game stretch?
But their problem is they cannot rely on those 3 games coming in the playoffs, should they even get to the playoffs, which is no longer looking like a certain thing, right? So last year they came late enough in the game where you're kind of like, ooh, it's happening, right? It's happening right at the right time.
When it happens late, it's going
to be Joe Flacco. He's going to turn it on for the playoffs. We're going to go to the promised land. We're going to win a Super Bowl. Now we're already behind. We're already under 500. We've had a couple of the decent Bortles games. It's almost like all the juice has already been used. This is never coming right at the right time. What we need now is for your quarterback just not to throw away the game every single game. At which point, I honestly think they're better off going with Kessler for the remainder of the season on the basis that he's not a good quarterback, but he's way less likely to toss the ball away and lose the game for you.
So they can at least get to the formula, which is, okay, if we don't turn it over, we give our defense a chance. And their defense wasn't bad yesterday.
Yeah.
Actually, they did tear it up front. It just, when you lose 20-7, it's like, all right, well, we lost.
So then you assume one of 2 things happens, right? Either Kessler is just about competent enough that this team gets back on track and wins these close games and gets to the playoffs and whatever, or the whole thing is a disaster. Kessler sucks, and you're blowing up the quarterback position for next year. Either way, it at least gives you an idea of, something better than just sticking out with Bortles and rolling the dice every single week.
Right.
That maybe this won't be the week he sucks.
Maybe it'll be one of those 3 or 4 games. Credit the Texans. I mean, they're creeping back into the race here after starting out really slow and not looking good.
They put Deshaun Watson on a bus to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
A 12-hour ride because they were concerned enough that air pressure in a plane might be detrimental to his bruised lungs. Then send him out behind that offensive line in front of Calais Campbell because that wasn't going to be a problem to his lungs and his ribs.
Yeah.
I mean, harsh?
Just looking at their offense grades, they're still just in a rough spot. I mean, look, they've won 4 straight. Very much, they're back in this thing after starting out 0-3, but still sitting behind this offensive line. Watson's a couple weeks ago, we were saying, hey, Watson's playing a little bit better than last year. That's kind of evened off. It's going to be a challenge. On the bright side, though, yesterday it was kind of like their old school defense. Jadeveon Clowney, Whitney Merciless getting after it.
Yeah.
They were a couple of our highest graded players of the week on the defensive side of the ball. So there's still some good coming out of that if the defense can maybe carry them a little bit.
It's like what we said. It's at some point the beating he's taking is just going to catch up to him. Like, he's now out there with busted ribs and, half a lung and whatever else he's dealing with. Like, it's too much. You can't play well. I think it's one thing to play well in the face of unrelenting pressure all day long.
Right.
It's another thing to play well in the face of unrelenting pressure, which has already collapsed half your lung and busted up a couple of ribs. Like, you're just expecting too much of the guy.
So you don't think that'll last, huh?
No, I mean, the Houston Texans offensive line has now given up 113 total pressures, which is only 1 behind the Vikings. They've given up, the second worst rate of pressure in the league ahead of only the Cardinals, who have been, conspiring to get Josh Rosen
Again, the
killed.
bottom end of these offensive lines are
just miserable.
Record-setting.
So, 113 total pressures to the Texans. The Saints have given up 37.
Well, they had a bye week.
Okay. The Rams have given up 39. They had a bye?
No.
Okay. The Bears, 41. So there's 3 teams with 41 or fewer.
They've had a bye.
Texans have given up 113.
What if they gave up 90 in that game where they had a bye to catch up?
That would be a lot.
Wow. Yeah, so, look, there's still enough question marks with the Texans, but give them credit. Getting back into this whole thing.
Watson has to get on a bus again. 12 hours either way. That's going to suck.
Just study the playbook.
Do you think it's is it at least
just read the game plan the entire time? He just consumed the game plan.
Is it at least like a Jerry Jones party bus or like the Madden Cruiser? Like, they're not just sticking him on a Greyhound, right?
No, I'd imagine he's not on a Greyhound.
Yeah, because that would suck.
It's at least a coach
like
bus.
a 12-hour journey.
Just a really nice coach bus.
In a sweaty Greyhound.
Maybe they borrowed Jerry Jones' bus.
Maybe. I mean,
maybe it was a Cowboys bus.
Or no, it's Texans. They've got, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Either way, I wouldn't want to be on a 12-hour bus journey unless it was a really nice bus.
Somebody needs to write a story. Somebody needs to ride with him and document. What are you doing for 12 hours by yourself?
Has Phillip Rivers still got that like Mercedes van that's all kitted out like
with all his kids?
Party bus?
I don't know.
To go from San Diego to L.A. every week?
I don't know. Where are they next week? Oh, they're Thursday Night Football.
The Chargers?
I'm sorry, the
I
Texans.
was going to say, because they're coming from Wembley. That would be harsh.
So what if the Texans had to go to Wembley?
Ugh. Well, yeah. Well, then you'd presumably just fly from Jacksonville.
Put them on
Except
a boat.
you can't, yeah.
I'd put them on a
you're
boat.
Right. I don't know how you're getting around that.
So, I mean, next time they have a Wembley game, what do?
I don't think you can get, like...
Next year when he's got bruised ribs because they didn't fix the offensive line and they have to go to Wembley.
Can you even get across the ocean in a boat inside a week?
I don't know.
That's a long way.
They've done a lot with boats these days. I bet you can.
Yeah?
All right. Let's just move on, Sam, please. Lions at Dolphins, 32-21. Matthew Stafford, one of our highest graded quarterbacks of the week.
Yeah. Matthew Stafford playing well.
He's quietly so I think a lot of people wrote him off because he threw 4 picks in week 1.
Yeah.
But he's quietly played really well and in a different way. I always talk about Stafford and his ups and downs and all that stuff. He's been very consistent these last few weeks.
He's playing well. Matthew Stafford is having, he's at the top end of the Stafford coaster right now.
Yes.
Part of that is because the Dolphins don't appear to be good, which we were preaching quite early. Just to give you an indication of how not good the Dolphins are. One of the things you were saying is that offensive line from Miami is pretty miserable, and that, again, was going to come back to haunt them. Their offensive line was so bad that it somehow allowed Deshaun Hand and A'Shawn Robinson, 2 of the most inept pass-rushing defensive linemen I've ever seen in college. They were run-stuffing behemoths who did not pressure the quarterback, almost as a matter of course, like a designed rule in that defense. They combined for, what do we got here, 13 total pressures on just 43 pass rushes.
Yeah, not good.
Those are Aaron Donald numbers, and they came from 2 guys that don't really rush the passer.
Ted Larson, Travis Swanson, Jesse Davis all struggled in pass protection. I did a Dolphins podcast last week, and I was trying to be positive because it was a Dolphins podcast.
How did that go?
But I also tried to say, look, they're just one of those rosters where even nothing about them says, okay, they're going to maintain that. They were 4-2 coming in.
Yeah.
They just didn't. Nothing said, hey, this is a 4-2 team. Something's got to give at some point. They're just weak in bad spots. And the offensive line had been, overperforming essentially to that, to this point until Sunday. Yeah. Defense, too. I mean, the defense, should probably get torched week in, week out.
Yeah.
So, Lions, they're just hanging around.
Yeah, the NFC North is kind of chaotic now. Like, the team, everyone's kind of started to win again a little bit. The Bears have dropped a couple there, but the whole thing is chaos. And even more chaotic with the tie between Green Bay and Minnesota.
I love it.
Like, that division is a mess.
Did you have anything else on the Vikings-Jets game before we move on?
No, not really. I think we covered that. The Cousins thing, Thielen, the defense,
Donald.
the Vikings defense played better, but it was a big windy game, so there was a lot of defense in that game.
You're starting to get into this effect of the elements, which I like.
Well, that was windy to the point where clearly passing wasn't going to be a big,
I mean, it's an important part of the analysis. Good conditions, domes versus wind versus the elements. I mean, it does affect
both defenses played pretty well. Darryl Roberts had a really interesting game. He's a guy we talked about before. I really liked coming out with a caveat, which is he's really good in coverage, but he's just physically not strong enough, and it manifests itself across the board. Like tackling in the run game, bad. When he gets during the course of routes, he can get muscled out of it by strong receivers. And at the catch point, he'll get beaten by strong receivers. And it was basically exactly what we saw in this game, right? We had Thielen score a touchdown against him almost immediately deep down the sideline, just beat him at the catch point. But then we get a deep route against Stephon Diggs where he doesn't have to get physical, and he's in tight coverage, swats it away. Had a few plays like that. Also had a play in the run game where he just lowered his shoulder and missed the running back, went to launch and just got run the hell over. But over the course of the game, he was targeted 16 times. Gave up 11 catches.
16 times.
For 88 yards, one of which was that 34-yard touchdown. But had 2 pass breakups, was in tight coverage a lot of the time. This was the most emblematic Darryl Roberts game you would ever see. This is exactly the guy we scouted coming out.
Well, it was because it was 3 games worth of targets that we got to watch.
Yeah.
To get to get information. That's great. I love when a guy gets a whole bunch of action in the secondary to see what he can do. Carolina Panthers at Philadelphia Eagles. They win 21-17. Philadelphia is burning, according to, I think it was Ross Tucker was quote tweeting some, the callers, in Philadelphia. People are upset.
Well, now Philadelphia and Jacksonville next week in Wembley, which would presumably before the season look like
that was going to be the game of the year.
Right. Now they're, I think, both 3-4.
Yeah, two of our top defensive lines and both teams that, potential Super Bowl matchup and all this stuff.
And Eagles really let this one slip. The first thing to note is that Jason Peters with a busted up biceps looks bad. 2 hits, 2 hurries, a penalty in there as well. I'm not saying he's the big V. He's Vitae bad yet, but the difference between the two of them isn't significant anymore. Before Jason Peters to Vitae represented this colossal downgrade that was going to be a real problem for the offense. Now they're kind of in the same ballpark with as long as Peters is playing with a torn biceps. So that, for the remainder of the season, Carson Wentz is now going to have to expect pressure coming off the left tackle basically all game, which is a problem because that's been arguably the best offensive line in the league for the past few years. Now it's not going to be.
Wentz was playing such a good, clean game, and then at the end, essentially tried to throw 2 game-ending picks and then held the ball forever and fumbled to end the game. 3 plays that were just horrendous to finish. The first pick, the Eric Reed play, where Eric Reed almost makes a diving interception. Mm-hmm. How many times did you watch that replay looking for a tipped pass, and the ball came out? It bortled out of his hand.
Yeah. No, that was unideal.
Wobbled right out of his hand and should have been the game-ending interception.
Fletcher Cox remains pretty obscene. If it wasn't for the fact that Aaron Donald was in the league, Fletcher Cox would be
way more obscene.
Would be getting a hell of a lot more.
Fletcher
kudos.
Cox is like Justin Smith, right? If he was by himself, we'd be like, oh, this is the best interior defensive lineman in the league, like Justin Smith was back in the day.
Basically, anybody that's amazing right now is cursed by the fact they're playing at the same time as Aaron Donald. And before that, it was J.J. Watt.
We'll get to Donald in a minute because if you're on the YouTube channel, there'll be a video coming up about you breaking him down, and we'll talk about his game in a second. It's just a weird season for the Eagles now. I mean, they're still strong in the right places. If you're an Eagles fan, you're sitting there saying they blew this game. If you're a Panthers fan, I made the joke. I feel like Cam Newton every week at about 3:45 or so. He's leading a comeback. 3:45, 3:50. He's trying to lead a comeback, and this one he pulled it off.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not like they're out of it yet because the rest of that division isn't exactly dominant either. The Giants have 1 win. The Cowboys are still 3-4, the same as the Eagles, and only Washington is 4-2.
Yeah.
So the division is still there to be won, but they're obviously in a hole. They're in a hole they didn't expect to be in. But if you were in the AFC West and you were 3-4, like say the Broncos, you can pretty much say the season's toast already because the Chiefs are running away with it. They look dominant. There's another team in there chasing the wild card. You're screwed. The Eagles are still well in the race for that division.
This has been my point. This has been my point about the NFC the whole year. I don't know that you're going to define teams by record because in any given week, the Panthers.
Right.
I mean, I think the Eagles are a better team than the Panthers, but I'm also not surprised that the Panthers came out with a win. I mean, I think a lot of teams are better than the Panthers, and they always find a way to do a little bit better than their record. But I think that's just the NFC. And I think any of these teams, you go to the North, like you said, whether it's the Packers, the Vikings, those teams are all scary come playoff time, even scary for the Rams. As good as the Rams are, and they are above all these other teams, the Rams aren't a shoo-in to just beat the Eagles, the Vikings, the Packers in any given week. And that's why I think the NFC is just going to be so incredible down the stretch.
I mean, if you just look at, say, points differential, right? The Rams are way ahead of anybody else in the NFC. So they have 107 more points scored than they've conceded. But everybody else is just chaos.
Right.
The Bears have 36 more points scored than they've conceded, and they're bottom of the NFC North right now. The Lions above them actually have a negative points differential. The Redskins are top of their division. They have the worst. They have the worst points differential of the 3 teams that aren't the Giants. Obviously, the Giants just suck.
It's amazing.
You're right. It's a mess. The NFC right now has not yet sorted itself out, and may not for the remainder of the season. And it's going to mean that teams like the Eagles, who are hovering around 500, are probably going to be firmly in it. They just need to kind of catch fire at the right time.
Yeah, it's going to be. Look, it's a good race. I'm not ready to write the Eagles off either. I mean, it's just a wide open NFC. Let's get to a couple more games to touch on. Browns at the Bucks. Browns play overtime again.
Yeah.
Big surprise.
Which apparently is not a record. 4 times they played overtime this season already. The record is 5 over a season.
Yeah, my wife was asking me yesterday. She's like, that has to be a record, right? I'm like, yes, honey. Come on.
Yep.
That's a record.
No,
but I didn't know.
Apparently not.
There's been more. There was a point late in the game, it felt like Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston, both ends of your love and hate spectrum, were both just trying to lose. Like, what can I do? How bad of a sack can I take to lose this game for my team?
Like, Baker Mayfield did not play well in this game. In fact, he was playing pretty badly for most of it. Then kind of seemed to get on track late in the game, was starting to get things right. And then that 4th down fumble that was just, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You had it, and then you could let a guy catch you from behind and knock the ball out, and there's the game, essentially.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was rough. That was a rough finish. I don't know if you're the Browns, you just continue to find new ways to try to lose games.
It's really quite impressive.
Even with the great Baker Mayfield at quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into this whole culture thing or whatever, but you got Hugh Jackson going after Todd Haley and saying he's going to, start calling plays, even though he did that the last 2 years when they won one game. I mean, there's so much at stake or at play here with the Browns. I think there's going to be some fresh blood in there soon, and they're going to be a very good team. That's all I'm going to say.
It was one of those things where, like, even just at Hard Knocks, watching it, it's clear that is not. There's not enough synergy with everybody in that building, right?
Yeah, we're trying to be as polite as possible here.
Somebody is not going to be there in a year's time. I don't know who, but clearly all of these people in this building right now working together are unlikely to be doing so for that much longer.
And then I think when there's maybe different voices combined with the players that they have on the roster, I think they'll be a good football team.
Denzel Ward remains playing really well.
Yep.
4 targets against Deshaun Jackson, allowed 2 catches, 25 yards, and had a pass breakup in there. Another strong game from him, again, making it look like at least the Browns do appear to have nailed their first 2 picks, even if Baker Mayfield has had a couple of rough outings as of late.
Yeah, for sure. How about Carl Nassib picking up a couple sacks? Now, look, the stat sheet's going to show the 2 sacks. He had 38 rushes to get them. And so it wasn't.
And it was the only
efficient.
pressure he had.
It was the only pressure that he had, right? JPP was the best pass rusher up front, and he's not a great pass rusher. He's a run first guy. I mean, that was a classic JPP game. The Bucs still have issues getting after the quarterback and generally covering on the back end, but this is one of their better games that they played this year defensively. And the Jameis coaster continued.
Jameis coaster. We need
the in-game Jameis coaster.
New Orleans and Baltimore. The only thing we need to talk about here is the fact that Justin Tucker missed an extra point. What?
I don't understand.
It cost him the game.
Yeah, I mean, credit Flacco. He had a couple big throws down the stretch, a couple really nice throws down the stretch, including what should have been the game-tying touchdown.
They score.
But it only counts for 6, so it wasn't really
the touchdown. We're going to kick the extra point. We're going to overtime. And then Justin Tucker, who has never missed an extra point in his career up until now,
misses the extra
slices one wide right, and then gives it a look of like, what the hell? Like it's not. You see kickers where the ball comes out, and it's like, oh no, that was me. You're like, he kicked it, took a look at what it did, and went, what the hell just happened to that?
It was perfect to start.
Yeah, and then it's like sliced off to the right, like a bad golf shot.
Didn't make a ton of sense. Drew Brees sharp for the Saints again. Offensive line was good at the tackle position. Man, Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk, like running away with the, best tackle tandem in the NFL.
They didn't allow a pressure collectively.
And dominated in the run game. Interior was not nearly as good for the Saints, but man, those tackles, we got to do a breakdown on those guys. Armstead and Ramczyk, I mean, they've been incredible.
Taysom Hill played 26 snaps on offense.
I'm so torn on this because he does add value. But I made the argument. Remember a couple years ago when the Patriots signed Tim Tebow?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, Tim Tebow's going to be the goal line runner. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Well,
he's probably the 3rd best goal line runner on the team anyway. And why would you ever take Tom Brady off the field because play action and all this stuff? I say the same thing about Drew Brees. Why would you ever take the ball out of Drew Brees' hands because of the threat of the play action and all that stuff? And I still believe that to my core, but Taysom Hill's still making it work other than they had that, option fumble and all that.
By contrast, Lamar Jackson had 5 snaps on offense, and every time it happens, people are like, why are they doing this ridiculous Lamar Jackson package, blah, blah, blah. Taysom Hill had 26.
Yeah.
Like 5 times more.
But it's because Taysom Hill, let's look at the breakdown. He had 5 runs. He had 3 plays where he was involved in a pass. He had 16 plays that we considered a run block. So essentially, I'm not saying he was specifically blocking, but there's a couple times they use him as an H-back and a blocker, and he's not the ball carrier. And he had 2 times he was considered a pass blocker. So there was some sort of play action or whatever, trickeration. So it's not he's just, running the ball every single time. They're actually letting him block and do other things and run routes.
Right. I'm just saying that's a crazy amount of snaps for a guy that's still essentially a gimmick.
It's fascinating. He's a really good athlete for a 40-year-old or whatever he is. He was in Matt Barkley's recruiting class at quarterback.
Wow.
Matt Barkley.
That's
the 2009 recruiting class before he went on his Mormon mission. So credit the Saints again. That's a tough road win against the Ravens. Drew Brees now beaten every single NFL team, all 32.
Yeah, only the third guy to do it after Peyton Manning and Brett Favre, because Drew Brees, unlike Tom Brady, who's never beaten the Patriots, Drew Brees beat the Saints back when he was a San Diego Charger.
Right.
And, of course, Favre and Manning both moved teams to the point where they got to beat their original.
Brady will beat the Patriots in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, once they have to go Favre on him and turf him out of the building.
Yeah, at some point when they find their next guy. All right, a couple more games to fly through. Redskins beat the Cowboys in a game that the Redskins kind of controlled until the end. This was another weird one. Dak tried to lose the game, then they came back a little bit, missed the field goal at the end.
Yeah, exactly. The kickers just suck.
Don't leave it to kickers.
The Redskins' defensive front was really dominating against Dallas.
What are you going to write about this week, columnist?
I don't know yet.
You're a Washington Redskins columnist.
Yeah, there's some options on the table. We're going to mull it through after this podcast, but I don't really have the mental agility to be deciding that and replying to it whilst recording the podcast.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah,
there.
we're gonna hang fire on it a little bit. But up front, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Ryan Kerrigan, Zach Brown, Preston Smith, the whole basically front 7 of the Redskins was dominant against Dallas. Did you see the play? You did see the play because I sent it to you. But my boy, Matt Ioannidis,
your boy,
basically tossed Zeke Elliott aside like a rag doll to make, I think he got a hit, maybe just a hurry on the play. But Zeke Elliott is a big fella, right? Okay, yeah. He's only a running back.
Tossed him,
for a running back, he's a pretty big guy, like 220 plus.
Yep.
And Matt Ioannidis literally tossed him aside. That was impressive.
Yeah.
Also, that was after he tossed aside the tight end at the line, right? So he beats one guy. Then Zeke comes in to try and clean up the pass blocking and literally just gets tossed to the floor as he runs after Dak Prescott. That was pretty impressive.
It was. Yeah, so this was not a bad NFC East game, but again, just continues to add to the confusion. The Cowboys continue to struggle on the road, Sam.
Yes.
Different team, home and away. How'd your boy Van Der Esch do?
Leighton? He got hurt at one point in the game.
Sorry, I didn't check him before, so I'm putting myself on the spot here.
Yeah, 21 snaps. I think he got hurt.
Snaps. I saw him make a couple plays. Sean Lee just plays at a whole different speed and level when he's out there.
I mean, that linebacker core has the chance to be really special. If you get him, Jalen Smith, and Leighton Van Der Esch on the field at the same time, even if you then drop one of them for nickel situations, etc., those are 3 really good players.
I think I don't think these teams are nearly at the level as, say, the Eagles, the Packers, and Vikings potentially. But again, I think we just chalk this up to any week in the NFC. These teams are beating each other up, and they're all going to land between 7-9 and 9-7.
Yeah,
and it's a couple bounces here and there by the end of the season. Let's get to the Rams' domination of the 49ers and just focus on Aaron Donald for a minute.
Yeah,
his grade this year is better than any grade we've seen. So he's already been the number 1 player in the PFF 101, PFF 50 the last couple of years. He's the best player in the NFL.
Yeah.
And now he's getting better.
Pretty much.
Playing better, playing at a higher level.
Yeah.
Play for play.
I mean, the Ndamukong Suh coming over has probably helped him. It's at least ensured that he's almost never going to get double-teamed, legitimately double-teamed, because there's just too many guys on that defensive front that you have to worry about.
Right.
It frees him up to get those one-on-one blocks, and one-on-one he is essentially unblockable. He is going to beat that guy. It's just a case of how long it takes and, what you can make happen in that time.
Yeah, he even bull rushed Mike McGlinchey
Yeah, and that guy's got 15 years worth of experience behind him.
Right. You've seen a few stunts.
You've
in your
seen
day,
everything.
If you're Mike McGlinchey.
He's seen it all.
But even he hasn't seen Aaron Donald.
And yet he wasn't able to live with it. 6 total pressures, including 4 sacks, 7 defensive stops, an average depth of tackle in the run game, 1.5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, which is by far the highest of anybody this week who had more than 1 tackle. So a few people got like a minus 3-yard tackle, and then that was it. That was all they did.
He has. Can I reference plus minus real quick?
You're not allowed to do that,
Just for perspective's sake, he has multiple games this year where if you just took that game, he's a top 15 plus minus interior defensive lineman. How's that one?
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous.
Multiple games, like 3 or 4 games where he's a top 15 interior defensive lineman. And again, the plus minus is just stacking up, plus, minus, it's just stacking it all up. When you convert the whole thing, it's a 95 plus grade that Donald has. And if you guys have PFF Elite and you check out his player page, you'll see that's the highest grade of his career. So an already dominant career looking even better. That's clearly the highlight of the 49ers-Rams game yesterday.
Yeah, it's the highest grade of his career. It's the highest grade at any position in the NFL right now. He is the standard bearer in terms of dominant play in football right now. There is no better player than Aaron Donald.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Very impressed by Aaron Donald. Any other takeaways in that game?
No, that was pretty much it. Aaron Donald remains ridiculous. Just tore through the 49ers offense. That limited them to pretty much anything. I mean, the other side of the ball, it's almost getting kind of boring, mundane. The Rams are just able to rack up points almost at will. Like it's not I don't think it's as exciting as the Chiefs offense, which is more explosive, which is more sort of physically dominant. It's more based on individual players doing freaky things like Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt breaking tackles and launching himself sidearm over the pylon, that kind of thing. Like the Rams just carve you to pieces. They just go out there and run these plays, and you can't deal with it.
But there's a lot. There's a lot of the same elements. There's a ton of jet motion. There's a ton of like little nuanced things that just give you like a one defender advantage or one player advantage against the defense that opens up open throws, that opens up runs. Todd Gurley, statistically, he's speaking of the MVP race. People are going to talk about him in the MVP race. We will completely disagree with that because. I mean, first off, Jared Goff's the most valuable player, but even when you look at Goff and everything that he has around him, I mean, this is a full-on scheme and system, and Gurley's just the byproduct of all these other things. He's good, but the most valuable player in the NFL, Sam? No.
Running backs at this point can only value add once everything else is already set. So if everything else is good, running backs can be the difference between really good and, like, impossible to deal with. But
that's where Gurley and a guy like Kareem Hunt are right now.
But as soon as one of those 5 things falls apart, the running back is done. Like the offensive line falls to pieces, Todd Gurley goes bad. If the scheme disappears, the quarterback isn't there. We see with Saquon Barkley, it doesn't matter what the rest of it looks like. So a running back just simply cannot be that valuable anymore.
Right.
The days are gone where a running back can make that kind of needle-moving impact.
If you've watched Jared Goff over the last few weeks, he had a few unlucky interceptions this week. It offset a little bit. He had a couple disastrous passes that did not get picked off that should have. One last thing. There was a college game this weekend. If you guys have been following our discussion about the 49ers and all the 3 techniques that they have, the 3-technique position where you just put the defensive tackle over the guard, let him rush. And we said, look, the Niners have like 12 of these guys, but no edge defenders. And we jokingly said you could just stack them all up over the guard.
Everybody comes through the B gap.
Well, a college team did that this weekend. Our analyst screenshotted it and sent it into one of our Skype chats and said, check this out. And I said, there it is. It's the play I came up with. B gap explode is what we call it, Sam.
That's what you called it.
That's what I call it.
Yeah.
I stacked up 7 of them. I forget who this was, Appalachian State or something. They stacked up 3 guys. I think it was over the center, just vertically. Over the center. There was no other defensive lineman, and I don't even know what they did. I just saw the screenshot.
Well, that's the thing, right? I want to know what they did.
We'll go back. We'll go back and find the play. Maybe we'll diagram that out, too, when we get here on Thursday. But
I'm reasonably interested that they did that as a look, but now I want to know what happened.
I want to know, too. Well, we'll get Bobby Sloak to run this thing.
Yes.
The Niners have nothing to lose. It's time to run.
Yeah,
Big gap explode. Stack up your 3-techs.
Play to your strengths.
Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, Earl Mitchell, Sheldon Day, Solomon Thomas. They're all 3-techs. Who else am I missing? They're all in there. Cassius Marsh, get them all up over the guard and wreak some havoc. That's what we're doing.
I say go for it.
Awesome. We're looking to see that next week, Bobby Slowick. Go Niners. Hope you guys bounce back. All right, guys, that'll do it. That'll do it for Week 7. We'll be back later in the week previewing Week 8. But for now, be sure to go get your PFF Premium Stats. It's all a part of your Elite Package. You'll get your Green Line picks at midnight tonight. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's the best time to get it. Green Line, midnight tonight. You get your first look at the picks. Best value is tomorrow. And then Premium Stats filling in the rest of the day. All part of your PFF Elite Package. Special thanks to our sponsors as well. We will talk to you guys on Thursday.